We all know who Lady Gaga is, but do you know why we call her that?
Call me Lady.
Okay, lady.
A surprising number of celebs choose to go by names that weren't on their birth certificates, so let's find out who's going by their middle names and who chose something else entirely. Some of these stars aren't finished fixing their stage names and might be called something new in the future. Billie Eilish Pirate Baird O'Connell. Billie Eilish is an amazing performer with one of the most epic names in show business. Her full name is Billie Eilish Pirate Baird O'Connell, so let's break that down. Originally, Eilish was going to be her first name after her parents watched a documentary about conjoined twins Katie and Eilish Holton. But when her maternal grandfather Bill passed away, her parents decided to name her Billie in his memory and make Eilish one of her middle names. Pirate came from the mind of her brother Phineas, who was 4 years old when his sister was born. As for Baird and O'Connell, those are her mother and father's last names respectively. Her full legal name is quite a mouthful, so Billie chose a much more simple stage name for herself, and she had plenty of options to pick from. Gigi Hadid, Jelena Noura Hadid. Fans of Gigi Hadid call themselves the G-Force, but that's not this model's real name. She was born Jelena Noura Hadid, but from the time she was a little girl, her family and friends all called her Gigi. When she started going to school, kids and teachers alike sometimes had trouble pronouncing Jelena, so they began going by Gigi full-time. It was a practical decision and not a professional one, since she was just a child at the time. But it's safe to say that this name change has definitely worked out well for her over the course of her career. Meghan Markle, Rachel Meghan Markle. When Meghan Markle started dating Prince Harry, some royal family fans were immediately skeptical about, well, every aspect of her entire life. But one question we still aren't sure about is why Meghan goes by her middle name.
And do you know that my first name is Rachel in real life? Did you know that?
I had no idea!
Her full name is Rachel Meghan Markle, and no, her Suits character Rachel Zane was not named after her. She's been called Meghan since she was a little kid, and it's how Prince Harry referred to her in their wedding vows. Although the official paperwork had her full name, it's clear everyone near and dear to her knows her as Meghan and not Rachel. Ariana Grande-Butera. Part of being a celebrity is hearing strange rumors about yourself, and some fans have been intent on figuring out Ariana Grande's middle name. But the thing is, she doesn't have one. There were rumors that her middle name is Joan, but the truth is her full name is Ariana Grande-Butera. She was famously estranged from her father, Edward Butera, which could explain why she dropped that part of her last name when she got famous. Clearly, she wanted to shorten her moniker, since she's also considered just calling herself Ariana. Although she's Ariana Grande for now, this star believes that eventually she'll become so famous, people will drop the Grande altogether. Cardi B, Belcalis Marlenis Almanzar. If you don't know this star as Belcalis Marlenis Almanzar, don't worry, you're not alone. According to Cardi B, nobody except for her family calls her Belcalis anymore. Her little sister Hennessy decided her big sis needed an alcohol-based name too, and started calling her Bacardi, which was eventually shortened to just Cardi. As for the B, Cardi claims she likes the way it sounds and it can stand for anything, from beautiful to bully, depending on the day. Marilyn Monroe, Norma Jeane Mortenson. Marilyn Monroe is one of the most iconic stars of all time, but would she have gotten so famous if she went by her birth name, Norma Jeane Mortenson? Studio exec Ben Lyon was worried people wouldn't be able to pronounce Dougherty, her first husband's last name, and wanted to come up with something better. Ben suggested she use the name Monroe, which came from her mother's side of the family, and paired it with Marilyn after Broadway star Marilyn Miller. Although Marilyn Monroe was the final product, they explored other options like Clare Norman, Carol Lind, and Meredith. Zendaya Maree Stormer Coleman. These days, Zendaya Maree Stormer Coleman is simply known as Zendaya. This star knows her name is unique enough to stand on its own, and she thought it would be cool to be called simply Zendaya and be in the company of stars like Cher or Prince. But just because she chose a shortened stage name doesn't mean she doesn't like her name. She loves sharing the middle name Maree with her mom despite the different spelling, and says Stormer and Coleman represents important family history as well as her heritage. Miley Cyrus, Destiny Hope Cyrus. Billie Ray Cyrus and Jeane Finley were so convinced that their daughter was destined for greatness that they actually named her Destiny Hope Cyrus. That name is a lot to live up to, and even though she's now famous, she legally changed it back in 2008. When she was a kid, her constant cheerfulness earned her the nickname Smiley, which was eventually shortened to Miley. Legally, she's now Miley Ray Cyrus, with her middle name being a tribute to her grandfather, Ronald Ray Cyrus. Bruno Mars, Peter Jean Hernandez. Peter Jean Hernandez is a talented performer, but you probably know him by his stage name, Bruno Mars.
I'm Bruno Mars.
But this singer didn't just switch things up for the sake of his career. He's been called Bruno since he was just a toddler. Apparently as a child he resembled famous wrestler Bruno Sammartino, hence the nickname. When he started creating music, execs would hear the name Hernandez and try to force him into specific genres of music. He didn't want to be the next Enrique Iglesias, so he started going by Bruno Mars, which was a clear sign that his music would be out of this world. Maddie Ziegler, Madison Nicole Ziegler. You probably know Dance Moms star Maddie Ziegler's real name is Madison Nicole Ziegler, but did you know that wasn't what was originally on her birth certificate? Her parents named her Taylor before deciding it didn't quite fit, and changing it when she was only a couple of days old. Although she admits to using a fake name on occasion in an attempt to remain anonymous, this star seems happy to go by her nickname, Maddie. Lady Gaga, Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanotta. These days, everyone knows who Lady Gaga is, but not everyone knows why we call her that. She was born Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanotta and says her former producer deserves at least partial credit for making her go Gaga. He started calling her Gaga because of the 1984 Queen song Radio Gaga, and the nickname just kinda stuck. She had been performing under her real name but decided she wanted a fresh start, so she added Lady to her nickname and became the star we know and love today. But during an interview, she told Oprah Winfrey to call her Gaga instead of Lady. Yet in the song Monster, she clearly says, "Don't call me Gaga," so we're not 100% sure what she likes to be called.
And how do you prefer I call you? Lady, Lady Gaga?
Call me Lady.
Brad Pitt, William Bradley Pitt. Brad Pitt really wants you to remember his name, so much so that he wore a name tag to an Oscars event just in case someone didn't recognize him. But you might be surprised to know that his name is actually William Bradley Pitt. After his split from Angelina Jolie, he talked about reinventing himself a la P. Diddy and going by a different name instead of Brad. But as far as we know, he's sticking with Brad Pitt, at least for now. Dove Cameron, Chloe Celeste Hosterman. Descendants star Dove Cameron legally changed her name for a sweet and sad reason. She grew up with the name Chloe Celeste Hosterman, but her father always called her Dove. Her dad passed away when she was 15 years old, and the loss hit her hard. In order to honor his memory, she changed her name to Dove Cameron, although she says her family still calls her Chloe sometimes. Keke Palmer, Lauren Kiana Palmer. Keke Palmer didn't get the chance to come up with her own nickname, her sister did it for her. Apparently, her 4-year-old sister had an imaginary friend named Keke that she wanted to name the new baby after. Their mother worried Keke didn't sound professional enough, so she named her Lauren Kiana Palmer instead. But although her intentions were good, the name Keke stuck, and this star says that's all anyone has called her ever since. Reese Witherspoon, Laura Jeane Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon has been a star for so long that it's hard to believe her name isn't really Reese Witherspoon. Her full name is actually Laura Jeane Reese Witherspoon, but she decided to shorten it when she started acting. She chose to go by Reese instead of Laura because Reese is her mother's maiden name. This mother-daughter duo are super close, and Reese has called her mom her biggest inspiration. Jason Derulo, Jason Derulo. Some stars are forced to cope with the fact that people will constantly mispronounce their names. Apparently this star didn't want to deal with that, so he changed his name from Jason Derulo to Jason Derulo. Yes, these last names sound the same, but the spelling of his stage name makes it easier for many people to pronounce. Nicki Minaj, Onika Tanya Mirage. Nicki Minaj is such a strong person now, and it's hard to believe she was once convinced to take on a stage name she isn't crazy about. She was born Onika Tanya Mirage, and obviously Nicki is a shortened form of her first name, but changing her last name from Mirage to Minaj was part of one of her first production deals. Nicki claims she fought him tooth and nail, but in the end she ended up agreeing with the term. Although she's keeping her stage name, she says none of her close friends or family call her Nicki Minaj. That name is only for when she's performing and not for when she's enjoying her personal life. John Legend, John Roger Stevens. John Legend fully intended to become famous under his given name, John Rogers Stevens, but his friends had other ideas. Apparently, they started calling him John Legend, something this star admits he wouldn't have chosen for himself. But before long, it caught on, and everyone thought it was his real name. He had to choose whether to go back to Stevens or stick with Legend, and he decided to embrace his destiny and become John Legend on stage. Drake Aubrey Drake Graham. Drake is a star who goes by a single name, which also happens to be one chosen by his father. Aubrey Drake Graham isn't completely sure how his dad came up with Drake, but he knows that he's always loved it.
Yeah, man, I love it, man, I love it.
He embraced it as a stage name and says that he feels like Drake in everyday life. Apparently, he feels as though Aubrey is a separate person who's a little bit more proper than we're used to seeing. What do you think about the stage name chosen by these stars? Do you think they should switch to their given names, or have they found what works for them? Share your opinions with us and your fellow fans in the comment section, and don't forget to click on the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up for more from the taco. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.